I'll call to order the Policy and Curriculum Committee. First on there is discussion regarding policies 180, 133, 425. Yes?
Yep. As I shared with you, I started to go through the district's bank of board policies to look for updates. I'm looking at the policies that are oldest, meaning the latest in history as far as their last approval or last review. So I started in the 100 section, and the handout that just came to you is a draft of some proposed language. First off, for policy number 120, the legal description. The Waterford Grade School District, the current verbiage says it's a unified school district organized as a K-8 basis as set forth in Wisconsin Statutes, Chapter 120. Actually, our district is a common district, and we've been operating in the common district at least as long as I've been here, and I checked with DPI, and we're also listed legally as a common district. The difference between the unified and the common district is the unified district doesn't have an annual meeting, and so all the powers of the annual meeting revert to the board. So the point is that we need to have our policy reflect actually how we've been operating and what we're legally listed as. Should the board or the committee choose to stay as a unified district, we would need to take that to a vote. First, it would need to come by petition from the citizenry, and then it would be voted on at like the spring election. Okay, so there wouldn't be a special meeting or anything, but a spring election type of vote. But seeing that we've been operating like a common district for a long time, it just seems the practical thing to do, unless there's a philosophical discussion we need to have, would be to change the verbiage of the policy. So that's the recommendation for policy 120.
Any comments on this?
No, I don't have any comments. What we are.
I would rather see it listed as a common school district within a union high school district, so people understand what it is. We can't be unified anyways if we're not K-12, correct?
Yes, we can.
What would you?
Sure.
How would you do that?
It would operate just like a unified district as far as you just wouldn't have the annual meeting.
Unified and interpreted that you have your high school district in with your elementary district.
No.
Is there such a unified district that is not?
I'd have to look that up. That's a good question.
Yeah, so
That's easy to look up too.
Yeah.
I can check that for you.
So state statutes just either had a union high district or a unified district in the statutes. I don't see that. You know what I mean? But I'd rather say something in there that was within a union high school district.
I don't know that we need to describe something outside of our school district.
I think you recognize K-8, ISP for high school.
We just keep what our school district is, I would think. The high school changes something up there, we change theirs.
Well, high school can't change. You're all within a union high school district.
Again, I believe we should describe our district, not tying it to the high school district.
Okay. Well, then the question is, what is a common school district? I don't know what a common school district is. What does the word designate?
The annual meeting.
Basically,
It's set forth in Wisconsin Statutes, Chapter 120. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which means we have an annual meeting.
Right.
So if you do away with the annual meeting, we would.
Yeah, what I'm saying though is
just as a board.
Chapter 120 is for union high school districts. So that's getting your head around the thing, isn't it?
I guess I'd have to go
Because
back.
120 does not refer to unified school districts, which are K-12 districts throughout the state. Now, there could be maybe in a K-8 that I don't know of.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up
Yeah,
specifically.
120 is specifically for union high districts.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is by just calling it a common thing, which really doesn't, we'd want to see chapter 120 and see what 120 says, but I don't have a problem changing it to the word common from unified there, but it doesn't really tell anybody anything.
I would request that for our next meeting, for our second reading, that we would have the chapter 120, and specifically the areas of
to move as an action and to have a first reading, we haven't had a first reading.
No.
Okay,
So do you want it to come back to committee, or do you just want to go to first reading and then the additional information?
why don't you bring it back?
Yeah, let's bring it back.
Okay. We'll do that.
Yeah, you could do that.
The title for 120 is School District Government, and Chapter 1 is Common and Union High School Districts.
Okay, so are they clarifying a common district is the K-8 and Union High is separate or what?
No, because it's talking about in common or union high school districts, and then later it talks about a common or union high school district may or may not have this or that. So it seems like you
So it's
could
interchangeable?
a common school district operating elementary and high school grades can do this, a common school district operating only elementary grades, or a union high school can have such and such. So it's talking about either or.
Okay. Use it
You
interchangeably?
could be either. I mean, you can choose to be one or the other.
Okay, only reason I say that is because as I look at this sentence, just saying we're a common school district, doesn't really tell anyone you need to three readings.
Yes, it does. It says, as set forth in the Wisconsin State Statutes, Chapter 120.
Okay,
It says, if you want to have more description, go to the Wisconsin State Statutes and read it.
okay. That's fine.
Any other comments? Let's move to the filing board vacancies. Filling the board vacancies.
Right, policy 133 is listed there for you. I added four words under subpoint A as far as filling vacancies. Interested candidates who are qualified electors of the district will be solicited. And I pulled that verbiage from statute.
The only thing I wondered about the board vacancies, I mean, I read, vacancy may exist until the next April election, and obviously if you don't have a qualified person, I just wondered about some statement of wanting to fill it in a time, I don't know what the wording would be, that's something in a timely manner, because I don't know if we want to leave a vacancy if there's a reason that someone is not interested in it.
Well, for example, somebody has to vacate the position 2 months before a election, you wouldn't want to waste your time.
Sure.
This election's coming up. So there are reasons for not having a vacancy filled, but I don't know that it actually qualifies that in the state statute, does it? Okay, so you pretty much leave it forward to fill vacancy on it.
And that's what I read too, but I guess just part of me felt that if it happens with more late, kind of like, I just wanted to be able to move the vacancy in their spot.
It says a vacancy may exist until the next April election. So it gives us the flexibility either way. And since there are 4 officers, if you got down to 2 vacancies that you could fill all of your officers' positions, I would be concerned. Being down to 4 would not scare me. I think you're just trying to qualify that this person needs to be qualified to the point of being that their name could go on the ballot.
Correct.
I don't have a problem with that. Do you want to have that go to first reading? Okay. 425, open enrollment.
Basically, the 425 is a follow-up to the several requests we've gotten through the exception piece, and all I'm trying to do is expedite that process. And so you will notice, basically, if you go in the original policy, if you go to the very, very last page, very, very last paragraph, instead of, I've clarified what the district is, and basically, it would be up to the superintendent or the designee's discretion in cases of the open enrollment exception clause, whether or not to approve those students coming in. If it's a situation where the superintendent's uncomfortable making this determination, or there isn't space, or there's some questions surrounding that, he or she would bring that to the board to discuss, and then make a decision. But what this really boils down to is,
The way you can operate already.
yeah, and I just wanted that to be reflected in policy number 1, but also officially, I mean, technically, if you're to really, really follow it, out of courtesy to the families and the students, we're telling them that they can start after your vote. But in some cases, these people are waiting 3 weeks plus, you know what I'm saying? Because they're waiting for a formal board meeting. And I guess in these circumstances, to get the kids here educated, why not start them sooner? Rather than wait for the next full board meeting. That's the intent behind that. Understand too, I followed your direction from last February about the special ed piece. And we're watching class sizes as to where the kids are assigned. So I'm following the parameters that the board sets forward in making these determinations.
Any further discussion on this? I suggest that we move this for our first reading.
Okay. Can you provide clarity on 120? Do you want me to bring the statute specifically, or are we comfortable moving that forward?
I'm comfortable with it. You comfortable with bringing this for a first reading?
Okay.
We'll put it for a first reading.
Thank you.
And have you bring that statute up
I will.
or supply in our packets.
Okay.
Anything else on this?
No.
Okay. Constant pilot at Fox River.
I'll turn that over to Mrs. Marshall. She described the program to me probably about a week and a half ago that just wanted to provide the committee some information on.
Okay, I just wanted to update you. I've been working with Mrs. Kleppel, and the goal of ours has been to be able to provide some additional services to families directly out of my office, the office area at Fox River. So in other words, when you're looking at the needy students and the parents and/or that need some additional outside resources, and we work consistently with these parents, and yes, we're going to go, and yes, we're going to get counseling, yes, 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 but they never ever follow through with these things just due to whatever the case may be within their family. It's always been my thought process, if I had the ability to have somebody in directly in my office, we could move them right over to that spot. So Mrs. Couple has worked with an outside counseling service, which is called Credence. They do this in other districts, particularly East Troy, right down the road it does it. And what we're going to be doing is a pilot situation in my building where Credence is going to provide 2 therapists, 1 time per week, up to 8 hours, so a half hour per student. The parent will obviously have to be informed, okay? Parent can come with this child, just whatever they want. They'll be in my building from 9 to 11 o'clock approximately, and they will provide services for up to 6 weeks per each child, and then at that point it has to be referred out of the building, and the parents will have to find and pay for the services. We have the Aurora system in our district right now where we refer parents to that. The piece that misses with that Aurora piece is, number one, Aurora does not provide AODA services, and unfortunately a lot of the referrals that we make for outside counseling are due to AODA issues. So as we're providing Aurora, that always doesn't help in our area after they do an eval on the family or the child. The second piece is it's always in the evening, and parents find a way to, it just doesn't always work with their schedule. So we want to run a pilot. We want to see how it works in our building. The pupil service team in my building would take a look at the 8 neediest kids in our building and our families, contact the parents and see how they would feel about, once again, they have to sign off. There's no liability for us. Each counselor therapist that works in our building has the liability, things that they need, so there's nothing for our district of obligations that way at all. The thought process is this works. After we pilot for a semester, then we would extend it down into the elementary buildings and see where it would go with that, whether we would do all 3 or we take a look at the neediest families in all of the elementary buildings and be able to hopefully offer that as a connection for a parent, and then they can go outward when they need additional past that. So it's It's just, it's been something that we worked on, and Kim's worked very hard. I think it's important for us to know that this is no reflection on what our counselors and social worker are not doing or doing at this point. This is an additional free service that's offered to our district. We work very hard to make community connections. Kim works very, very hard in the community, and when you're looking at RTI and you're looking at PBIS, you look at how do you service the top tier of students, and this really aligns with what you're doing. When you think about the wraparound services that we can provide for students. So I'm going to try it out for a semester here, and I'll certainly report back to you as to how it works or doesn't.
How is this funded?
There's no money. There's nothing for it at all. It's free services, just like Aurora is free. Free to our families. Well, the first services are. And then after they get their initial...
The district's paying for
Okay, correct. All right, the district is paying for that. The family piece is free. Credence is offering this as a free service to our district. Like I said, they're working in the East Troy districts already. They've been in there for a long period of time.
So was their pilot free in East Troy? Now East Troy is paying? I mean,
No, there's no pay.
nothing's
This
free.
this is a service that this is, well, my guess would be if I was a counselor, then I'm hoping to make a connection with you and your family, and then after 4 to 6 visits within the building, you would come to my counseling place outside and then pay and work with the insurance piece, correct?
Okay, so my question is are we going to allow them to solicit business in that manner?
No, no. This is identification through the pupil services of 8 kids that I, Kim Kleppel, Sarah Sigmason, Evan have identified, and making phone calls to these parents to say, we'd like to provide this opportunity for your child within the day. The counselors come on site and they do it right out of my office area. It's all private. I'm not included in the conversation, anything. Now, like with everything else, if the parent wants to sign a release, I or Sarah can talk with that counselor, but that's only through the parent and the agreement they make with the counseling service, just like we do with all services. We don't have any doings with counseling unless parents sign the release, and then we can contact the counseling services. And then we work with what Sarah, Kim, I do with the child, and we try to align with what they're doing. They give us resources, we tell what we're doing, so it's no different than what we're doing already.
I mean, maybe it's an open-ended thing, you probably know well to describe it, but can you describe to me, other than you selecting, let's say, the 8 neediest, who may need this, is this a parent-student together
Can be.
counseling?
It certainly could be.
Suppose a parent decides that they don't want to show, because maybe some parents don't want to show anyways, they don't show high or whatever. So then you just have the student alone with the counselor.
Right.
And you said it was 6 weeks, 2 times a week?
Once a week.
Once a week after that 2 weeks?
Yep.
Okay, so after that, how long is the session?
For a half hour, 30 minutes.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that at the end of that session,
Mhm.
is the counselor soliciting that student's parents for outside?
No.
And how do we know that if we don't know what the counselor is talking to the student about?
Well, the way it's set up is to support what the child needs based upon the recommendation from, it would be us contacting the parents saying, hey, you know, we really recommend counseling services, blah, 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 our same routine we always talk with parents about. We happen to have a person that is available in our office on this given day for a half hour, up to 6 sessions. Would you be interested in that? Because obviously you've indicated that you don't have car services, you work 3rd shift, you're unable to get your child there, whatever the case may be. How would you feel that would work for you, understanding that it's up to 6 times, and at that point then mom and or dad, you would need to figure out what you're going to do beyond the building. But the hope is that it's a bridge to try to get a family and or a child to find out that, wow, maybe this is making a difference, or this is helping my child, and ultimately it helps us in the building with academics, because when kids can't function, can't think, can't focus on what needs to be happening in the classroom because of what's going on in the house, that inhibits what we do instructionally. So it's hopefully a bridge, Dan, to help out. Now, once again, it's a pilot, we'll see how it works. You know, you try to hang your hat that everything's going to work. I don't know, you know, you try to
Do you
extend.
have some measure, some way to determine whether this should be go beyond the pilot stage?
Oh, I think it's what the kid shares with Sarah and I when they come down, and or the parents saying, hey, Mrs. Markle, thank you so much for this opportunity, it's really helped our family, blah, blah, you know, just it's that conversation that we as principals, the counselors, the social worker of the district have with parents as follow-ups. So I think that's the way we would get the feedback. And I would probably, you know, purposely call, just because it's in our pilot, the parent and say, you know, when I say, you know, I don't want to know what your counseling was about, but I just like to have feedback from you so I can report back to the board on that when I need to update them. If you thought it was, you know, it's really just a service to help parents that have difficulty getting to outside resources. And I don't mean it this way, but it becomes an enabling reason as to why we don't do something to help our child and or help us as parents. So to me, it's just like it's another, oops, okay, I don't know how I can, you know, it's to help the parent to extend a hand.
I think it's a great thing to address those behaviors and things that happen that are greater than the scope of the school day and the school environment, to be able to reach out to families. And hopefully, you know, I would just want to make sure that those therapists are in communication with the families, and we do offer that release to have that carryover of skills within the school. So even if they do go outside, that then we can have some of that support and carryover from them, collaboration, to continue helping that student.
I'm always a little concerned about pull-outs out of class. You know, I want to make sure that we don't have problems with the students, but if they are having issues in a class where they aren't really making progress in the class, we need to address first things first.
Absolutely, I mean, and that will, reading and math are obviously very, and all subjects are important, please, I don't want to, any teacher here that teaches something else, I mean, I was a FIED teacher, most important subject of the day, FIED, so, but obviously reading and math are key places where kids need to be in those classes, and that would that would be my intent, never to pull them out of those two core areas, and especially with our intervention kids and so forth. Correct, Paul?
And having the approval ahead of time for the parents, I think is...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this wouldn't go forward without a parent with a signed release. We've got those with Kim. We use those all the time in our office. We have all those things. Our social worker, counselors, and psychologists have all those releases that parents have to sign before you can do those things. Absolutely.
I have no other concerns. Bob?
Sounds great. How soon would you like to start?
If you give me the go, I'll talk to Mrs. Couple. She's in my building on tomorrow, Wednesday. She's there tomorrow, and we'll get a call and we'll get set going.
John?
And benefits.
Yeah?
I'm good with the middle school for the pilot. I don't know that I'm good yet with the elementary, being that I don't think I am in favor of having separate counseling for a student independently of our district personnel in our building at the elementary level without having a parent present.
Okay?
Middle school, different thing, they're a little older.
Well, today
Yeah,
we're
I'm
talking
just saying,
about
it
pilot.
was brought up.
Yeah, it's the intent to try it in the middle school first, and then to reflect and see how it works or doesn't work, and then obviously talk, and then if a recommendation be made, to come back to you at that point.
I'm hearing all green lights here.
All right? Thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for working. So now, director's update?
All right, I have quite a few of them today. Want to update you on the preschool. We had 19 students that came in to get screened, and of those 19 students, 4 scored above the testing marks, so we won't be offering services to those 4 students, but the other 15 students, 8 of them scored below level in all of the subtests that we gave, so they were great candidates for the program, and 7 more scored below in 1 or 2 of the tests. So we're going to offer spots to 15 students. We met with the bus company today to look at that. I'll be working with the preschool teacher to get those letters out, and then we'll do follow-up phone calls to those people so that by next week this time we should have an idea of which students and who needs transportation and all of that. So things are progressing quite quickly here, so that's good. And as just so we're all clear on this, if there's a 4-year-old that, or a parent with a 4-year-old that says, oh, I'm just finding out about that, we will continue to screen continuously. So Jean, the preschool teacher, can do that in the afternoons, yeah, even when the preschool is running. So, because some parents are just interested in how well their students are doing. More
Did you
than,
put a cap on this?
probably, we have to put a cap about 20, so we don't want to get too many, but if there was a student who needed. Several of the students that were screened have speech and language concerns, so we'll look at that over time. And then a couple of the candidates will probably may need some other assistance in programming over the course of this year. We're going to keep a close eye on that.
It's conceivable that one or two of these families may reject the opportunity to.
That's correct. That's correct.
Is there a point that you would say this student has made X amount of progress and now no longer is available or eligible for this, or?
I guess we look at that in a individual basis, but, you know, we did these screenings as our benchmark, and then we're going to do them again in the middle of this amount of program in the year, so I guess if they would exceed to that level, but we would want to make them as strong as possible before going into kindergarten. So, and then we'll continue to monitor their progress. We're going to use some monitoring tools. Each student, we've looked at the four-year-old criteria as well as the kindergarten. The preschool teacher met with the kindergarten teacher, and Jen Ballou, who's working on a practicum, is taking a leadership role here and is working to look at what are the basic skills we want to report out to students, as well as how do we want to monitor their progress over the course of, you know, every couple of weeks. How do we want to progress that, and how do we want to report that to parents?
If a student would exceed, you know, midway through, I would be concerned about them being exited and that we can't then bring them back to monitor that they maintain once they've left. Because how do we know that the support here and what they're getting is what's causing that? You know, we don't want to think that that is. So I'd like to see what we do here.
Yeah. I mean, because of the timing, it wouldn't be likely that a student would, but you never know what
I don't
results
want-
might be
I
produced,
don't
right?
want to be, like self-fulfilling, like you go to a counselor and
Right.
you never get out of counseling.
Right.
You know, and part of it may be labeling. If the student is there because they need the strengths and skills, but they feel themselves that, you know, this is what we've done, this is for, you know, somebody other than me, you know, there should be an escape out of there if possible.
Also, the child might have been nervous coming and not being familiar with school, so they might, so that's a good point.
How many students did you test?
19.
Seems low, isn't it?
Well, it's a new program, it's just getting out there, so.
Yeah, but I mean, all these people that we're talking about, we need 4K, we think there'd be more people bring their students in to see if they fall within the numbers. My question is, how many students we have in kindergarten, you know,
140, 142.
so let's assume we have at least 120 fourth graders laying around waiting to come in the next year in the fifth grade. We want to get 10% of the student population. Either our way of soliciting is below what it needs to be, or something else needs to take place. I mean, every student teaches for
Right.
students.
I'm actually kind of happy that it's limited to this amount. I would hate to have a larger amount at this time.
You know, what I'm saying is our data group is so small, how do you set a level of what is needed? If you tested 19 and you're saying 15 of the 19 were subpar,
Right, but you don't base the assessment. The assessment itself has national norms that you use to determine whether a typical child of this age is language or mimic awareness, listening, sounding skills is at a certain level. So it's not in comparison to the other kids. It is that they score on the test, but the testing pieces themselves are scored on national norms. So if you think about it, 120 students in kindergarten means 10% of that would be 12. So we have more than 10, and so, I mean, we'll have to look at that when kindergarten rolls around in the fall. Perhaps we got 15 students that really were the students that needed it, or perhaps not. We'll have to look at that. So,
I presume Kathy is well on top of this and will be receiving progress reports as we go.
absolutely.
Dawn, any comments?
Okay, then a few other pieces. So the preschool is Title I at Trailside. We're moving ahead and hiring we're in the process of hiring a math aide to be able to serve more students at Trailside in the math area, as well as we're increasing our reading services through some technology tools at Trailside in particular because of the title funding for them. However, we were able to talk to one of the vendors, Reading Plus, and they are allowing all of the schools to do a 10 to 12 week pilot using this particular reading program, which is exceptional for second grade readers and above to help work on everything from eye movement therapy to vocabulary to reading comprehension. So I'm excited to see how that's working, and we're having a training for that on Thursday. So the principals as well as the reading teachers have been exceptional in getting that organized and finding which students perhaps haven't made progress as much as they should have before, or that we want to add this as another variable, either because they're getting other intervention, or in some cases even to be able to use it at home because it's a web-based product, that they could use it sort of as a homework piece that might just give them a little boost to get their reading speed up and their comprehension.
I assume they have measures
Yes.
that show that they've had advancements.
Mhm. Yes, all of the buildings have data retreat days, and so the students have been picked as a result of what are their needs, and we'll be looking at that. What will work out nice is our next testing period will be in winter, so we'll be able to look specifically at these students and see how this program has impacted, or if it has impacted their instruction. Then also, just for your information, the Wisconsin Knowledge and Concepts exam is taking place in some buildings. It's already done, and the school counselors, Julie, Tricia, Renee, and Sarah have really done an excellent job on promoting and accomplishing that. They really have done a wonderful job. I've worked with the state testing before, and I've never had such wonderful support, so they should be commended for that.
While you're on that topic, question, Dan, are the labs at the other two schools up to snuff for the KCD test?
I have that later on in my little checklist here, that Cannon and I completed a tech-ready survey for the Smarter Balance Assessment.
Okay.
That will be coming up in the next year, and we just did that a while back.
Yep. No, we're fine there.
All right, good.
Yep.
So, because the state had sort of a little checklist that we had to do. Educator effectiveness, just so you know, we're going to be using TeachScape, and many of the school districts are using that, and we're putting in for a grant for $80, which is the cost for each teacher to use the TeachScape. So we'll get that money back from DPI, and we just have to submit the grant. And then there's another grant that Mr. Yoke and I are looking at, and working with the area administrators to provide some additional professional development for teachers, so that we might be able to offer some things to give them additional support, and our effectiveness coaches some additional support. And then last night we started to work further on our response to intervention, looking at all of our different interventions and looking at the low end or at need, as well as the enrichment with the TAG program. And I just wanted to let you know that two of our teacher leaders, Mike Rosendich and Ruth Brooks, and also Amy G with the TAG, are really going to assist in facilitating that. So there were about over 20 teachers and principals who showed up voluntarily to work on that, so that was excellent. So they're going to work on the different subcommittees. That is all I have. Questions?
I got TeachScape, $80 per teacher, it's a grant currently. Are you going to have some kind of review to $80 when it becomes a non-grant? I mean, typically grants are, they get you hooked on something, all of a sudden they pull your grant away, and you're left paying for it.
It'll be interesting because, you know, we have to provide things electronically at some point for the state. So whether we're using TeachScape or the other program that's typically chosen by the districts is Oasis, and they're funding either tool so that that information and so things can work out. So I don't know if they're going to provide annual funding or how that will be. That will be interesting.
Well, for us that aren't using it, can you tell us what it's going to be doing and how it's working?
Just for the committee's clarification, understand the districts have to choose one or the other. So that's where it stands right now. It'll be interesting to see if it ends up being an unfunded mandate, 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
So my question will be, is there some, let's say, exact requirement of submission for them? Or does it say in the statute or the law that we have to use TeachScape?
Quite frankly,
That's what I'm looking for.
TeachScape is not necessarily mentioned in the verbiage of the law, but each district has to identify which teacher effectiveness model, educator effectiveness model we have to declare that district by district. So,
I would hope somebody comes up with something less expensive. I mean, $80 per person user fee a year seems high.
for all the information that's going to be put into it, I don't know that it's that outrageous, because isn't the other one more expensive? I thought that was 100 or 110.
No, they actually managed it. So
They
it's the
did?
same
Okay, I
price.
didn't know that. All right.
And it's more than just, there's many components of it. So even though $80 is a lot per person, it's also a way to collaborate on curriculum. It's also a way to deliver professional development directly to teachers who have a particular need, a particular interest in a topic. So there's a lot of different tools within it, but I agree, if, we don't get funded in the future, we'll have to look at that. Or which teachers, which year, because they have to be,
Thank you.
you know.
I see I'm running late and we have people waiting for us, so. Wow.
I mean, I hate to make extra work, but I would appreciate it if you could do like bullet points in writing prior, as, I can't take notes fast enough to keep up with this.
Sure.
If you could do that.
Other questions?